I think every artist can agree that drawing hands is not easy or something they enjoy. I mean, people can either just suck at them and not know how to draw them, or just do sausage fingers that just look horrendous, or just get the proportions wrong, or just have completely wrong proportions and hands being bigger and smaller than others, even when it doesn't make sense. Or even just hiding them as much as possible to get rid of them. Either having them like hidden behind something or just off the paper. That's why I want to spend the next 7 days or so just learning how to draw hands, so that way I don't have to hide them anymore. So I spent the first day kind of just genuinely just practicing hands, just with a reference. I think it turned out alright. Obviously a few things are off. Some of the hands I guess maybe should be bigger and they do look odd. That's one thing I still struggle with now, is just getting the angles correct is a bit odd. I think these hands turned out alright, especially this hand here. I think the only issue is the ring finger and the pinky should be a bit longer and bigger. They just look very weird. And also the thumb is very bad, it looks very fat for the rest of the hand. It is a good thing to practice drawing hands, because obviously say on this drawing here where the hands are like the biggest part, it didn't look great in the end. It looked alright, but it's not horrendous. It doesn't look bad, so it's not like the whole drawing's ruined because it's got like fat fingers that just are like pointing in all different directions. That makes no sense. So in the end I think, I still think some of the fingers are wrong. Like I don't like how the ring finger and the pinky again are going at a completely different angle, and I think that the middle finger and the ring finger should be pointed more inwards, but again I can't really do angles correctly at the moment. And then the next day I just was drawing on paper. I tried doing different angles again, like a flat hand, which I haven't yet before, and just practicing hands. Some of them turned out, they were all kind of bad, but I learned a bit from it. Again, this was, I think, the final drawing I did in the last video, but I wanted to show it just because it was less of just copying the reference and actually drawing the hand this time. That's why I liked it so much. I think definitely the elbow area, like the actual arm, could be better, but I still think the hand was actually good. But on the next day when I drew on some paper again, that hand on the left I think was probably like one of the best hands I've ever drawn. I guess maybe around the pinky area it doesn't seem to like warp around the hand like it should, but the thumb was alright, all the fingers were like long, correct size, and the hand next to it wasn't too great because it kind of just like curved in instead of actually going down like it should, but I do think it turned out alright in the end. Again, I was just practicing hands with references. This hand I don't think turned out too great in the end, but it was just for that practice. I definitely think the pinky, the way it should have been flipped really. It just didn't make sense with it being that way. It doesn't work like that. But I think it was good I think it kind of taught me how to do like the inside bit of a finger a bit more, like how I can do that a bit easier. So I definitely think it was not bad, like knowledge wise. It taught me a bit. Next I was drawing a hand that looked a bit complicated on a reference, so I thought I might want to give it a go. And I think the hand did turn out alright from how it looked in the reference, but there was a few issues with the hand. I think the main issue with it is that it's just not correct, so I spent a little while after it just tweaking it. So that was when I had it done originally. Next what I did was just change the ring finger to be a bit more thicker. I think I made it a bit too thick, so I thinned it out a bit. I think that looked a bit better, but then next I realised that the wrist was wrong. I drew it like a bit of a neck, and hands don't work like that, so I changed it up a bit, made the wrist a bit better, but it was still a bit wrong, because the hand doesn't, if you look here, in the difference, it's like by the middle finger is where it changed the most, and the thumb a bit. So I think in the end it was alright, but still not correct realistically. I drew this hand after, just with another reference. I don't think it turned out too great. I think the fingers were way too long. They were ridiculously long, but I think it wasn't too bad. Still just could have made the fingers not as long and it would have been a few times better. But I guess that's just the thing about hands, is just they're just very hard to draw. And I feel like if you get them wrong, it just always sticks out. Like you will always notice it in a drawing if it looks bad, like the hands are bad. And for the final few days, I was just drawing on paper. But then the next day, I did draw these. Some of these hands were actually really good. Although I guess maybe not perfect, but they were decent. Like the top left one was good. The bottom right one was fairly decent. The bottom left one as well, that was good. I mean, the fingers look a bit odd because again, I was drawing them with a bit of a different method to what I usually draw. And then again, I think the next day, the top right hand was, again, I was like using that same way of drawing, where I kind of just like do each individual cylinder for each part of the finger. I think it turned out not too bad, but again, I think the thumb was the main weakness. And the bottom left hand was alright, I guess. The top right one, apart from the thumb being a bit off, I think that was a pretty decent, to be honest. And then so with the same with the top left, I think maybe the thumb might be a little bit off, and the middle finger, but I think it doesn't look too bad. I think it's maybe the palm and the wrist area on the top left hand, and again on the bottom right, the main issue is just the thumb. I just struggle with that the most. It's just, I don't know, it's just odd. And then I think with these hands here, the top left and the top right were alright. I don't think there was too much wrong with them, apart from I think the fingers should be lower down, but it should be longer on the top right one, and like the middle finger and the ring finger, they should be a bit longer, but they should be lower down, I think. And also the thumb, I don't know, it just looks off. But I think to the top left hand, that was actually good. I can't see too much wrong with that, other than I think on like the palm underneath the three fingers, I think that should maybe be a bit less big. And I guess the rest of the hands just weren't that great. But what I'd like to show you now is how I like to draw hands now after spending this week of learning. So what I tend to do is draw like a circle to get the proportioning right, like the size correct. Because there's been a few drawings that I've done where the hands are just too small, and it just always just looks off. You can always tell when it's too small or too big. I'll draw boxes to show how big and small the hand should be, kind of like guidelines. So that way I know how long the fingers should be and roughly where they go and all of that. And then obviously for the fingers, I just draw 3 strokes kind of for each finger. Obviously these hands I'm drawing right now aren't too great. They don't look, but they just kind of just show how I draw hands. And I think with this method, I think it's definitely an improvement than what I could do a month ago with hands, where I'd just be copying the reference and it would just not look good, because it would just be I'm trying to copy something and I can't copy it as well, so it just looks bad. But I think with this, I think I've definitely improved a lot, so I think it was worth it in the end.